Ever since I was a kid, I always loved visiting Six Flags Great America. This park primarily helped me get over my fear of roller coasters as well as leading me to becoming a coaster enthusiast. It is now my third year visiting the park as a coaster enthusiast. I've ridden every single coaster there, and today I'll be ranking them from worst to best. Starting off with number 15, we have Sprocket Rockets. This Vekoma Junior coaster is tucked away from the main path of the Camp Cartoon section of the park. This ride has a great setting next to Goliath's first drop and is also partly surrounded by trees. Since this ride is a kiddie coaster, it doesn't have much force besides some weak laterals on the turns. I also don't think the color scheme looks the best, but I do like this ride's train design. Next up for our number 14 spot, we have Little Dipper. Unlike Sprocket Rockets, this ride does not have a great setting. This ride looks really awkward next to the go-kart track. This wooden coaster offers some weak laterals and ejector pops in the back row. Out of the two kiddie coasters, this ride is the more popular one, so you might expect some long lines. Next up, we have the Dark Knight coaster. This is your average Mock Rides Wild Mouse coaster, except it takes place indoors. The queue and the ride itself have some pretty decent theming for Six Flags standards. The hairpin turns have some nice laterals, and the drops may catch you by surprise. This Wild Mouse installation might be superior to others since it takes place in the dark. Taking the number 12 spot, we have Whizzer. To some, this might be a controversial take, but let me explain. This coaster is unique and you probably shouldn't miss out on it. This is a great terrain coaster with a beautiful setting surrounded by trees. The low to the ground turns give off some nice positives and great arm chopper effects. However, this ride is still a family coaster and it doesn't do much in terms of forces. Number 11, Joker. This is a pretty standard SNS 40 free spin. I like the sensation of flipping upside down a full 360. If you're only visiting the park for one day, then this ride probably isn't worth your while. However, I do think that this is a great supporting coaster for a big park like Six Flags Great America. Starting off the top 10, we have American Eagle. This intimate wooden coaster feels secluded from the rest of the park. Unfortunately, this roller coaster doesn't dual anymore, it only operates one side per season. After the ride's first drop, it has two back-to-back hills that offer great ejector airtime. However, the giant helix pretty much kills the ride's pacing. The rest of the ride consists of bunny hills that deliver no airtime because of the helix. For what it is, this ride is pretty disappointing. Next up, we have Demon. This was my first ever looping coaster, and it helped me get over my fear of inversions. This coaster has some great theming and rockwork throughout the ride. The first drop in the back row delivers some great airtime. It makes the restraint feel like it will fly open. The following two vertical loops are intense. The rest of the ride is pretty much just forceless. You might want to ride this soon because it is predicted that it will be torn down to make way for a new coaster. Taking our number 8 spot, we have the Flash Vertical Velocity. This intimate impulse coaster is solid. The vertical and twisted spikes offer some great weightlessness. The forwards and backwards launches also have a weird kick to it. It's also a great experience when you're in the front row and you're looking down at the water on the vertical spike. Number 7, Superman Ultimate Flight. This B&M flyer looks great in the skyline and looks intimidating at the front of the park. This coaster's standout element is its punchy pretzel dive. Apart from that, this coaster is filled with slow and graceful turns. I'd probably have this coaster higher on my list if it interacted with the terrain more. Barely missing our top 5, we have X-Flight. X-Flight is probably the most visually appealing ride in the park. This coaster soars through graceful inversions, and some of the valleys and turns even can make you gray out. However, the best part of the ride is the inline twist through the flight tower. It's a great leg chopper effect, and it also has some good hang time. However, this coaster has gotten noticeably rougher throughout the years, especially on the wing seats. Starting off the top 5, we have Viper. This ride doesn't have much theming except for some props in the station. This coaster's wide turns deliver the best laterals in the park. This coaster also has its fair share of ejector and floater moments. This coaster's best element is the double down, which is really solid in the back row. Next up, we have Batman the Ride. The first B&M Inver ever manufactured did not disappoint. The theming in the queue is decent, and this coaster also interacts with the terrain a lot. This coaster is aggressive and consistent with all of its punchy elements. This coaster packs in a lot of positives. The zero-G roll and corkscrews also have some nice whip. Number 3, Max Force. This coaster is insane. This coaster's launch is intense, probably the best element in the park. The inversions following the launch also have some great hang time. This coaster is short, but every single element on it is great. Taking the number 2 spot, we have Goliath. Like Max Force, this coaster is short, but it still packs in a punch. This coaster's first drop and airtime hill have some strong ejector airtime in the back row. This coaster's dive loop and zero-G stall deliver some great hang time. I also really like this coaster's entrance and train design. And for our number 1 spot, we have Raging Bull. I really like Goliath, but Raging Bull always seems to top it. This coaster's first drop has some insane ejector in the back row. Definitely one of the best first drops out there. The second half of this ride is consistent with a great airtime and tight low to the ground turns with some decent positives. For me, Raging Bull is the best coaster at Six Flags Great America. If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe if you want to see more.